All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Book Club, our first meeting ever. If I haven't met you yet, I'm Catherine. I'm a physical therapist here at Rogue, and I am just honored to be able to facilitate our book club. The reason why we started a book club is for the people, for all of our members who requested it. We have quite a few readers in our kind of member roster, and I myself am a reader as well. So I love the idea of book club and just learning things together and discussing that. So that is kind of the intention behind book club. Yes. And we are reading for our first book. We have read our Build the Life You Want by Arthur Brooks and Oprah Winfrey. So we discuss questions together, and really this is a very we're just going to be talking about the questions together. And it's a book club, so it's really just whatever you want to share that you liked about the book. You can ask other questions outside the questions that I have formatted for the book. It's not a kind of technical, we don't through questions that I've designed. We'll kind of see how it goes. And if you have any feedback on book club kind of facilitation or format, I'm open to that. So we discuss that after we are finished today. I just want to say in this joining, we've got Denny and Barbara, Bruce, Robin, Linda, Dinah, Sarah, Ruth, and Joan. And if there's more here that I can't see, hello and welcome. I also have the meeting chat kind of up in case anyone does not want to actually speak up for answering questions. That is perfectly fine. You do not have to. But if you'd like to share your input, you can always put it in the chat and I will read it back to all of our viewers today so that we can discuss everyone's voice. And just a little bit of housekeeping. If you're not speaking currently during our time together, if you'll mute yourself just to minimize any background noise so that we're able to have a nice, good clarity and quality of video. I'm excited, guys. I liked the book personally. So we can kind of chat first off about what your thoughts were. I'll open the floor to anyone who wants to speak about just general, if you liked the book and what maybe you liked about it.
Well, I do have
Anyone at
a
all?
question, which is pretty basic. This is Joan.
Hi,
I wonder,
Joan.
hello, everyone. I wondered if anyone in the group reads The Atlantic regularly when Brooks writes, because I don't. And I'd be real curious to hear other opinions on his column that he writes.
Oh, his column that he writes. Okay, I'm not familiar. Is anyone familiar with his
Yeah,
column?
I read it every day.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
I read The Atlantic. Yeah. And so that
yeah.
was
So,
kind of fun to see that that was the same guy that writes the column. And I think the book is really a lot of his columns put together. So, yeah. Is he the same Arthur Brooks that wrote something way out in another field? I can't think about what it was right now. I'll have to check that. But anyway, he's in the Atlantic, and you can read him online, or that's where I read them. I get the Atlantic online. So
okay. So it sounds like you're a fan of his writing style.
yeah, I am. The book was yeah, the book was like, as I said, it's like a lot of his columns put together. So
Nice.
mhm,
Very cool. Well,
yeah.
good question, Joan. Yeah, I wasn't familiar with that. Anyone else that has read the Atlantic or any other books by Arthur Brooks?
He wrote something else. What was it?
This is Bruce speaking. I am one of the people that recommended this book, and I have to say I got bored with it after a while. I got about halfway through the book, and it just became so repetitive or too much instruction. And I was hoping for more from Oprah in the book than I got.
Any feedback on
Well,
what
I
Bruce
didn't
said?
actually finish the book. I got about halfway through it and I just
Okay.
got bored with it.
Yeah. Hey, valid. Not everyone is going to love every single book, but thank you for your honesty. I also kind of had a hard time with the first two chapters, just like getting into it. So any feedback on what Bruce said? Anyone agree or disagree?
Bruce, I had the same experience with the book. This is Joan again. But I finished it and I like the ending of the book better than the beginning for sure. All
I
those
had the same experience.
okay, yeah, I really like.
I struggled with the, this is Denny.
Hi, Denny.
I struggled probably the first third or maybe even more. And I was just determined to finish it. And I dragged through those first parts. I appreciated it more like the last two chapters.
Well,
Me
you're
too.
motivating me to finish the book then.
Yeah, I'm working on you. Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
But I think it was better later. It was easy to wander off at the beginning.
Yeah.
And in the book, he was a little bit preachy, I thought. So
And the other problem I had was what he called feelings. And he had that little test that early on in the chapter, I think it was chapter 1 actually. He had things like interested and distressed and hostile. Well, maybe hostile. There were a lot of things in there like that I didn't think were feelings. And so I went online and I found this feelings list, and then they have some things that I agree with that are feelings, and they had examples under each one about how you might feel in those circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
this is from the Hoffman Institute. I don't know anything about them, but it seemed to be, it helped me realize that there were things that are feelings that maybe I hadn't considered. But anyway, that's basically my take on the book.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Denny. Anyone else have any general feedback about the book, the writing style?
I read half of it too before I somewhat petered out.
Sure.
I'm at least going to go back and try and read the last two chapters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting about how much is in our control.
Mhm.
I felt more reassured when I realized Arthur Brooks' credentials. I had friends that took that happiness course at Harvard,
Oh,
and
wow.
that was kind of interesting. They found
Mhm.
it very interesting. So I felt that lended credibility to him writing the book.
Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing, a happiness course. So that's pretty cool. So it sounds like it was similar than the book. I mean, to the content that they're maybe reviewing too. So, well, I think maybe we'll go ahead and start with our discussion questions, if that sounds good to everybody. So, hopefully, I can make it big like I had it originally. Because I don't want to do the presentation because then it'll take over the whole screen. But I want to make this bigger view. No. Can everyone read that, or is it pretty small?
Very small.
Very small. Let's see. Because it was big.
I can read the big one, but not the ones on the
it's
side.
fine. The big
Yeah,
side's
let's
fine.
see.
One
How
we're
did
focused
she
on.
have it?
We're only going to read one at a time anyway, so the
Right.
big one's fine.
I think presenter view maybe was where we had it.
Yeah, that's fine.
No, that's not what it was. Sorry, guys. I want it to be big enough to where you can actually read the. There we go. So from
Yeah,
here, I think I'll toggle. Awesome. So sliding y'all over. Can you read that a little bit better?
That's fine.
Okay, awesome. So question 1, everyone should be able to read. What does happiness mean to you, and how did this book challenge or affirm your definition? And anyone who doesn't want to actually speak can totally write it in the chat.
This is Ruth. I have thought a lot about happiness and joy. I mean, that's been sort of an ongoing conversation in my head for a while. And the joy, I've been so struck by how much deeper joy feels as a response to things than happiness. I consider happiness more superficial. And this sort of allowed me to explore it in a different way. I liked what Brooks and Oprah talked about it being a process, and that it's a destination in a sense, but it's not just a quick, easy fix. And I think that's just really important that you can change. You can affect happiness, and I like the idea of sort of putting it in people's own hands and saying, it's a process, work on it. Here's some ways to, get started with that. So I thought that was an interesting angle.
Thank you, Ruth.
I heard somebody talking yesterday about the Powerball, and that I don't know if it's $1 billion or how many hundreds of millions of dollars, and I can't imagine how many people are thinking to themselves, if only I could win that, I would be happy. And that means every one of them, but maybe one, maybe, is going to be disappointed because they view it as the big win or nothing. And I like that he talks about it as being happier than as opposed to achieving an end point. Just taking a one step up the stairs at a time.
Yes. Yeah, happiness as a journey rather than like you come to this point and that's the end. It's like it's a lifelong journey and a process of kind of finding what methods to use so you're in control of your emotions rather than your emotions controlling you. So yeah, that's good. Anyone else have an answer to this question that they want to share?
I thought it was really important that he pointed out having gratitude changes everything. So it affirmed my feelings. When you look at life and you're thankful for the things around you or the people around you or what's going on, then everything takes on a different point of view instead of thinking about what you don't have or what's going wrong. So that affirmed what I thought. Yeah.
This is Dinah, and I agreed with, I think it was Ruth that says the difference between happiness and joy being deeper. And that's my feeling as well. It has been for a long time. And happiness is a decision. I mean, we can make our minds up that we wish to be happy, and it's up to us really to be happy and not to let external or other people, affect us so that we are or are not happy. It's up to us to be happy. I was going to use an example. Years and years ago, I remember saying to my husband, ex-husband, of course, that I was about happiness, for his own happiness.
Supported that gratitude actually changed like our brain chemistry when we're grateful. It actually kind of improved that emotion in the brain rather than just like a subjective, I'm happier, I'm not happier. That gratitude practice and that gratitude journal that he gave in like your emotions of joy and happiness. I thought that was cool that this is back to well. And
happy, but I'm aiming a little more for commitment, and I'm enough to see that who is not happy, chief or momentary. And I liked in the book how he talks about even at difficult times, you can appreciate those difficult times. So are you happy? Maybe not, but they're part of an understanding or a pathway through life that is meaningful and where one can find contentment. So I think that's more the word that I think about in my process.
thank you, Barbara. Anyone else have thoughts on this first question before we continue?
Well, at least for me, I had no problems with his definition of happiness there. But at least for me, I always like a sense of peace. That gives me joy.
Mm,
And maybe he mentioned that, but I missed it if he did, because I thought,
hmm.
oh, peace is always a part of this, at least for me. But
Mm-hmm.
maybe
Yeah,
not
peace
everybody.
leads to joy. One kind of feeds into the other. Absolutely. All right. Question 2. The book separates happiness into 3 main components: enjoyment, satisfaction, and purpose. Do you have one that you struggle with the most and why?
I think I struggle most with enjoyment because I'm very sensitive to the people around me. And I really appreciate what I think is it Dinah was saying about not being responsible for someone else's happiness. And I understand that, but it's still very hard for me. If my family is, particularly my family, is troubled, I focus on that and it really cuts into my enjoyment. So that's in terms of things that I need to work on. I think that that is one of them, is sort of teasing that out and knowing how to be a good friend, a good family member, empathetic, but still keeping my contentment or peace or happiness, keeping that intact despite other people sometimes not being happy.
Mm-hmm. That reminds me of the part of the book, and it might be different than one you're explaining, but the empathy being kind of a negative thing if you're taking on other people's emotions and things. So I don't know if that really, if you can relate to that, but letting people's emotions kind of affect yours, something that we can all practice towards that compassion rather than the empathy, because it can change like our internal joy. So I thought that was very interesting the way that they kind of framed that, because empathy has taken on like a positive a compliment towards someone, but it was, the research kind of backed the fact that maybe it's not so positive.
Yeah, I don't know if people watched Star Trek: The Next Generation, but there was a character on the ship, Counselor Troy, who was an empath. And her job was to tend to the emotional needs and be aware of the emotional situation of the crew. And it's even like a joke in my family. People call me Counselor Troy because
Wow.
I'm very reactive to other people's emotional states. And, we are who we are. I'm not going to say that's a bad thing, but it has its challenges for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think it's good that you're recognizing it and you're working towards like being happy regardless of other people's emotions. So that's the first step, right?
Well, and I think sometimes it helps people more.
Yes.
In a funny way, if other people are content or happy, or if you're not feeling too cheerful or you're concerned and you're with somebody who's like, oh yeah, that's really hard, I'm really sorry, it's well meant, but I think it's a question what helps best. And at least this is what I tell myself, because of course I have to bring it back around to other people, but maybe I should just
Sure.
focus on myself.
Anyone else struggle with any of these 3 kind of pillars of happiness?
I think the purpose, I guess I would say that feels very important to me, that I don't want to, just be chasing, good feelings, so to speak, without a sense of why I'm doing that and what I hope to accomplish or change or encourage, with other people.
Thank you, Ruth.
Well,
Anyone else struggle with
for,
purpose?
for me, for years and years, I was bothered by the fact that I didn't have what I thought was the big purpose. I thought purpose needed to be something really grand and big, the purpose of my life. And I couldn't figure out what was the purpose of my life, and that really bothered me. And then probably about 10 years ago, I was in this program for a year with this lady, and she wrote a book. Oh my God, what was the name of the book? Anyway, I did the exercises in her book, and at the very end of the book, I came to a very simple, I call it simple purpose that satisfied, myself in terms of what was my purpose in life. And it's not some great grand thing.
I think that's a
You're
great
not
point,
going to
Dinah.
tell us? You're not going to tell
Yeah,
us?
what is it?
Just gonna leave you hanging. The purpose of my life is to inspire by joyfully expressing my essence.
I
Wow.
love that.
I decided that was my purpose. It doesn't matter who I'm, somebody in the elevator, somebody at the store, or a friend, whoever that I happen to be in contact with, that's my purpose.
I have one more to add to those pillars. Like retention seems to be the thing I struggle with. I'll get to these happy places where you have all three of those, but just remaining there and staying with those feelings is more my challenge.
What was that? I'm sorry, can you?
Retention.
Retaining it, retention.
I'm sorry, can you say retaining what, Sarah?
Happiness. Like you can get the three elements of enjoyment, satisfaction, and purpose, but remembering that you had them and keeping that clear image with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah.
The thing about happiness is, though, you can't retain it. You can't make it a constant, because if happiness was a constant, you wouldn't recognize it as happiness.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have something, you have to have unhappiness to understand. That's just part of the deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
So
they
true.
say, the price you pay for love is, the pain, the suffering or the grieving. It's just the way it goes. Like getting old, it's part of the deal. But I always tell my husband when he complains about something, I go, that's just part of the deal.
Yeah, that's a great point, Robin. And that's like what he stressed in the book, is that happiness can be fleeting, and it will be paired with unhappiness, because this is life and things are going to happen to us that may be difficult and may be negative, and that kind of mindset can grow over time with that unhappiness and that pairing of the two. But yeah, I think satisfaction is the one I struggle with, because I always am, trying to achieve more, which is not a bad thing, but just being satisfied or even content, like Barbara said, in the moment of what I have accomplished. I love a good to-do list. I'm sure some of you are the same. You're like, oh, okay, I can get all this stuff done. And I find myself not feeling satisfied when I don't get my to-do list done, but my joy should be deeper than that. So being satisfied, even if I'm not productive, is like a challenge for me some days.
Enjoyment's not the same as joy, but this is interesting because Ruth was saying happiness is kind of a part of joy, but these three pillars kind of suggest that joy is a pillar of happiness.
I'm trying to remember if anyone remembers kind of the way that he deciphers between joy and happiness. If anyone, I'm just going to take a glance to see. But I think enjoyment is more about like an activity rather than like a deeper joy, if that's what you're referring to. The word enjoyment, I think, is mainly like circumstantial with an activity. Yeah, first is enjoyment on page 9. This might sound like pleasure, feeling good. However, this isn't correct. Pleasure is enjoyment as is completely human. So basically just enjoyment for communion and consciousness. So, like, Thanksgiving dinner can bring you enjoyment, that kind of thing. That's his example. Anyone else want to answer question number 2? Or drop anything in the chat? All right, on to question 3. What role does suffering play in achieving lasting happiness according to the authors? And do you agree with their perspective?
Did they give it in the book? Did they give it I mean, did they talk about an example? I'm trying to remember, what did they say in this
Of
regard?
suffering?
Yes, and in
Examples of
achieving
suffering?
lasting happiness. What did they say? I don't remember that.
I think there were quite a few examples, kind of in a range of severity for suffering, but I can, if anyone wants to take a look, I can glance around, and if anyone has feedback on that.
I think when we suffer, it can lead to gratitude. I was thinking of my daughter, Rachel, who got cancer as a young woman and a young mother. And interestingly, she was going through cancer treatment with 2 other young women, both her friends, and they were both having infusions and treatments together. Another young mother and a friend that was maybe 10 years older with 3 daughters. And unfortunately, the other 2 women did not make it, and Rachel did. But there is not one family gathering that we are not thankful for, that we don't see now in different eyes. There's, she's kind of alive now in some ways that she wasn't before. So while she's deeply sorrowful for the people that she missed, it kind of opened up a way to see life and to be thankful for life and to view life that I don't think she would have had before. So I think in that case, her personal suffering, both that she experienced and with her friendships, led to something that might not have been achievable any other way. Not that we'd ever recommend this or, so I just thought of that right away, that I don't know if that led to lasting happiness, maybe gratitude.
Thank you for sharing, Linda. I think that's a perfect example of how suffering can give you a perspective that you didn't have before. Anyone else have personal examples of how suffering has helped them achieve more happiness or joy in their life? And Dinah, I'm finding examples of unhappiness, which kind of plays into suffering. Suffering can bring unhappiness, and there is quite a range from being gloomy, just like feeling low, to like a suffering like a physical ailment or something like that. And they're saying that can actually help with bringing you happiness if you have unhappiness. The secret to the best life is to accept your unhappiness so you can learn and grow and manage the feelings that result, is what he said on page 22.
I think
Any other?
the key point that I disagree with in this comment, what role does suffering play in achieving lasting happiness is the word lasting. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you're never going to have uh, achieve a level where you have never have a bad moment.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
I
And
do
there will
think
be more suffering, right? It's not just like one bout
there
of suffering in life.
there will be suffering. Like somebody said, it comes with the game,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
comes with being part of life. But I do think it adds perspective, and when you look back, you can appreciate what you've got now because you've been through the valley.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, I'm going to bring up the elephant in the room. I mean, people with Parkinson's, do you feel like suffering is kind of coinciding with your disease, with your diagnosis?
Well, I almost brought that up because I don't know that it's suffering particularly, but the notion that I may not always have the abilities I have today, that has been motivating
Mm-hmm.
and makes me think about what are my big objectives. I'm not super big on the term bucket list, but what do I want to be sure I have time and ability for? So it's been helpful to me in setting priorities and kind of being steadfast on pursuing those because I have an appreciation of maybe not having the time or the strength or the sameness of what I have now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not labeling suffering equals Parkinson's. I'm wondering what your thoughts are if you um, would couple that with particular sufferings.
Well, and that's where I trip a little bit on the idea that suffering brings happiness because I think it is not the suffering piece that brings the happiness. It's the appreciation of my abilities, for instance, or surviving um, a difficult thing. It's for me, it's kind of the good part that brings the happiness. So, yeah, I am happy
Yeah,
that I still have the abilities I do. I'm not happy that I have Parkinson's, but
right.
it's that other piece that to me is the happiness side.
Yeah. Anyone else? Thank you, Barbara.
Didn't Michael J. Fox in his first book say something about Parkinson's made him kind of, so to speak, a better person?
Hmm.
Did anybody read that? I'm not also agreeing with that, but his outlook was, I think he was kind of a selfish little snot, only worried about himself and a movie star and what he could achieve. And that his Parkinson's was a wake-up call,
Mhm.
kind of like, yeah, changed his whole outlook on life.
I felt that when I watched his movie. I don't know if anybody watched his movie called Still. But man,
Yeah.
that was tremendous. I so enjoyed that and I came to appreciate him so differently. And yeah, he contrasts the sorts of things he did and his life as a Hollywood star guy compared to what he is achieving now. And for me, I have such high esteem for where he's wound up. But yeah, that came through in the movie a bit.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of my favorite writers is Anne Lamott.
Me too.
She says something like, we're all on the same bus.
Yep.
We're all on the same bus, and we're all going to die. And I think Parkinson's, for me, just kind of woke me up a little bit more. I mean, it's some people get a terrible diagnosis and are dead 2 months later.
Yeah.
And in some ways, you know, Parkinson's, who is it? Mary Oliver. Someone once gave me, what is it, a box of darkness or something. And I realized that that too is a gift.
Mhm.
I'm probably mutilating
Mm.
that quote, that poem,
Mm.
but a bad thing. When I was diagnosed with Parkinson's, my family wanted to know when I was in the next town over. Gail, I was in your town, New York. And I was so worried that I had ALS that
I was happy that he said Parkinson's. And the neurologist was a little distraught at my reaction, said, this is not a walk in the park. And okay, not a walk in the park. My daughters cried, but I was actually relieved. And so, yeah, it's kind of not the news you want, but it kind of can wake you up and bring you good things too, if I let it.
I agree completely.
I don't think I was happy when I got the diagnosis, but it definitely was a wake-up call. And I think the amazing thing about the people that I meet through Rogue, either online or in person, is that this crowd is committed to doing everything possible to fight the Parkinson's, as opposed to just taking it on the chin and doing nothing and letting Parkinson's take over.
Absolutely.
It is stunning to me how little emphasis there was on being proactive and positive things when I received my diagnosis. It's just, I think of people who have not found Rogue, and I mean, it sounds like a big commercial for Rogue now, but I mean, seriously, I think about that. I think, gosh, just the way it was presented to me, there was not a lot of, but there's so much you can do. No, that was not there. It was just, this is it. Have a great day. Goodbye. And it was so strange to me now in hindsight.
My neurologist actually said, there's nothing you can do. There's no medicine you can take. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can eat. There's nothing you
Oh my
can do
gosh.
to change this. And at the time, now when I look back at that, I think how awful.
Right. And how wrong, how misguided.
Yeah.
Makes you a little bit angry.
I love hearing your thoughts on that too, because I mean, it's just one of those things that I see people every day, including yourselves, fighting against Parkinson's, and it is just so inspiring. So thank you all so much for sharing. Does anyone else want to chime in for question 3?
Well, I was lucky enough that when I got my diagnosis, within really, I would say just a month or so, a friend came up to me and said, I understand you have Parkinson's, and do you know about Rogue? And I just, nothing could have been more fortuitous than that. And so, I went on the website and joined and realized there's so much I can do. So, that was really just amazing to me, because I still meet anybody I meet, I ask them that, and nobody, I mean, I'm on the East Coast, so I realize that's a little trickier, but still, I mean, it's such a gold mine. Oh, amazing.
I love that, Ruth. All right, we're going to move forward into question 4. If you were to set a happiness goal after reading this book, what would it be, and how would you start working toward it? Anyone have a happiness goal?
Now, guys, we know that we should only aim to be second happiest, right?
Yes.
Didn't the book say that?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, I have a happiness goal. You know how you get facial masking with Parkinson's? I want my face to be like frozen in a smile.
I love it. Thank you, Sarah. Anyone else?
You're smiling now.
That's right. We're all smiling with you.
And I think one of the things I worry a lot about any kind of sickness like this or life-changing thing is that it inspires fear, and that fear is something we need to not let take over our lives, whatever the challenges are. And I just feel that, the new information, just this more positive, empowered approach to Parkinson's is just terrific for that, to just beat back fear and not let that take over.
And I like that he also explained that fear certainly has its place in safety and protection of our, bodies, but and our emotions. But on page 23, he said, by embracing your life without fear, you can manage your emotions. So letting yourself be in control instead of that fear. So that's great. It's empowering, right? To know that you're in control. Anyone have a happiness goal?
I think it's maybe I'm hating this word because with Parkinson's, it's
Change it.
maybe
Whatever
Barbara
word you
knows.
want to replace it with.
Intent. Intent. They say that all the time in our speech class through Rogue, speak with intent. And, when I'm walking, I'm not swinging my arms. So I go, oh my gosh, I need to swing my arm. Of course, I have to swing it mechanically. I don't swing it automatically. So I think it is to be intent about how I'm viewing life, to be a little more suspicious. Am I, like, for instance, this stupid thing, am I saying, oh, the weather's awful? And I put a judgment on the weather, or, oh, it's raining and cloudy out today. Now, that sounds simplistic, but just kind of reframing some of my thoughts or emotions about how I'm viewing things, perhaps.
That's
I
really
think
good. I have
so.
to say, we live in the desert. So anytime it rains here, you'll be at Walmart and people don't talk to each other. But when it rains, everyone goes, "Oh, it's raining. It's raining."
The rain can bring you joy.
Oh, it makes people really happy here.
It's all about that mindset. Yeah, you can call it contentment goal. You can call it your joy goal, whatever you want to call it. Anyone else have a goal in mind that they want to share?
I'm not sure this is a goal, but when my primary care physician told me that I had Parkinson's, and she said, but it won't kill you. Parkinson's won't kill you. And I thought, well, good. I can beat the out of this. If it won't kill me, something else will, I guess, trying to overcome Parkinson's. But I just thought, what a peculiar way to tell someone. And then when I changed to, and I see a neurologist now, it's a different, if it's a different take, that there are things that I can do that hopefully will prolong. Right now, I'm hoping to get more mobile, but so I guess that would be my goal. That would help with my happiness level if I could
Absolutely.
get
Have
rid
most
of the
people
cane.
found, yeah, that's a great goal. Have most people found that exercise can increase your joy or your happiness? I see a lot of head nods.
Not before I do it.
Afterwards, yes.
It gives me a sense of being somewhat in control of the disease of Parkinson's, and that's really important for me. I don't like to feel like I'm just sitting on the train tracks waiting to be hit. And the exercise, committing to that and following through with it has been very positive for me.
Anyone else want to share their happiness goal? I'm looking at the chat just to make sure I'm not missing anything.
I just had my first grandbaby. And I didn't have him, but my
Congratulations.
daughter did. But she keeps catching these pictures of him, like looking at his hand and being like, I have a hand and it'll move in response to my direction, right? And I feel like that when we talk about purpose in life, that's how I feel about my purpose. I have a body. I want to have a body. I want to have this experience. I want to have these people to love. And sometimes when it gets really hard to make the body move, like you're so cerebral, you're like, hand move this way, now foot step this way. Do you have to talk yourself through movement like that? I do. I have to go, come on, body, move. But it's nice to stop for a second and go, I have a body, I have a hand, I can, and the exercise with Rogue really makes you feel that way because you can get movement that is challenging, and you break it down into pieces that we can actually do.
Love that, Sarah. Thank you. Moving on to question 5. How do you feel about the idea that happiness is a skill, not just a state of being? And what are the implications of this belief for your own life?
I think it has everything to do with the word intent.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it, that whenever you recognize the emotions and just turn the corner, make a step, tell yourself, I'm not going to let that emotion control me. I'm gonna be happier. I'm not gonna go into the dumps because some external event happened to me that I can't control anyway. So it is a
Absolutely.
skill.
Absolutely. And he goes into several different methods that can help strengthen that skill. For example, taking breaths and counting to 10 before you respond, that puts you in control of that emotion instead of that impulsive anger or whatever it is that you're feeling. So I liked the feedback he gave and kind of how to strengthen that skill.
I can't tell you how many times I've drafted replies to email and just sat on them and never deleted.
I try really hard not to send an email until noon because my rhythm of the day, I wake up really hyped. I'm a morning person and I'm all passionate about everything. And I write these, really super long, passionate emails. And then I wait, I've learned do not send. I wait at least until noon and then I go back and I'm like, oh my gosh, what were you doing?
That's a skill.
That's a skill.
Absolutely. Anyone else feel that it's a skill that they're working on?
I think the other thing I've learned is how my behavior turns out. I don't know if that's exactly a skill, like you practice how to do things better or differently or whatever you're trying to master. But the sort of like the check on my behavior, I can see, oh, when I handled this like this, it turned out well. I will remember that. So it's kind of a different aspect of practice is committing to memory that outcome. That has given me something to think about more than once.
Absolutely. Anyone else have methods to strengthen their skill of happiness? I think the ability to choose joy or choose happiness is a great way to look at it. And he does a good job of wording and describing that we are in control of that and choosing a certain emotion like joy is the skill in itself, like stopping and recognizing, okay, today I'm choosing joy. Regardless of all of these things that are happening, whether it be suffering or discontentment, we are, looking past that and finding that like internal, deeper joy. As someone mentioned before, it's like a deeper meaning, a deeper feeling of I like the word joy better than happiness, so that's what I'm choosing. But yeah, feeling that and choosing it every day is that skill.
Well, for me, my favorite word is gratitude. And I like to say gratitude is the best attitude. So I choose gratitude over, but I certainly choose joy over happiness. Yeah.
And letting yourself off the hook, I think, in this question, it's understanding that it's not just a state of being. So waking up and maybe necessarily not feeling happy or joyful, and understanding it's okay that I'm not just naturally this way. I do have control over how I feel and choosing to do that and practicing that skill. We have time for one more question. Question 6. Authors talk about building a happiness portfolio in 4 areas: family, friendship, work, and faith. Which of these do you feel most confident in, and which needs the most attention? This is a good one. You're essentially ranking them. Which one is the best and which one needs some work?
Big.
I think there's an interesting issue of openness. And, it's worth looking at all of these 4 areas and thinking about how open you're able to be with people within them. Sometimes family's really tricky because they get more upset or whatever. I'm part of a faith community. How much do I want them to know about how I am and sort of what's going on? How honest will I be, which would then allow much deeper, more thoughtful, helpful conversations. But I think they're really interesting questions with that. How, what you tell people, how you let them in to this situation you're in and state of being, in a sense. So that's one way of looking at this.
Is there a certain area you feel most confident in, Ruth?
Well, I'm surprised that, for instance, in my faith community, I think, oh, well, I don't want all of them knowing all of this. And it's like, well, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why? Because it's just too complicated to explain it over and over. I just think we've got to be careful we don't get too protective
Sure.
of ourselves and, and therefore, miss the opportunity for people to respond and support that kind of thing.
Yes.
That's a really helpful comment. I'm glad you said that. That gives me something to think about.
Oh, thanks.
And it reminds me of the saying, vulnerability breeds vulnerability. I think when we're vulnerable with people about our struggles, they maybe feel similarly and feel like they can also be vulnerable. So sounds like that's kind of what you were touching on, sharing more personal details with people. Anyone feeling confident about family, friendship?
I was just going to add to what Ruth said. Dr. Mishley has a bunch of videos about how loneliness contributes to Parkinson's symptoms and financial worry, right? So taking charge of those so that you don't exacerbate your situation.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. I think this is a good way to think about those pillars and ranking them maybe on your own and seeing which one maybe you want to work on, and maybe be more vulnerable in that community of whether it be family or your close friends or even your coworkers, and members of your faith community too. So I like the concept of that, and hopefully y'all are able to implement some of those things. Any other last comments about the book or the format in general before we wrap up today?
I want to say thank you for adding to your workload by putting this together.
Of course. Yeah, y'all are so welcome.
That's a really lovely addition to it. We all sort of know each other a bit here and there, but it's really nice to have something like this that's, deeper and more complex.
Yeah. One more aspect for us to get to know each other on. So I'm looking forward to that also. And we're just getting started. So hopefully we have even more people next time. We'll go ahead and wrap up book club today, and just want to give you all a heads up that there'll be another survey being sent out the next day or two to vote on our next book and our next meeting date. So that will be the second round. And this time you will have a little bit more time to read the book. So I believe we'll be doing a different genre of book. This was more like self-help and health and wellness. So I believe we'll be switching it up a little bit, and I'm excited for the next one. But
Catherine,
this was fun. Yes.
I have a question. So will we be voting on the same list that we voted on before? It's just I wanted to throw something out there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we'd always be doing serious books, and I don't even know that I can recommend this book, but my husband's been reading a mystery series. And
Okay.
the main character, the detective, I believe, so to speak, or the one who solves the mystery, is someone with Parkinson's.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
It
okay.
says it kind of plays into the it's very minor, but it kind of goes through the book. The only thing he said about one of them, he's reading the series, he said it could be a little dark. So
Sure.
I would not tend towards dark mysteries,
Sure.
maybe bloody or terrible. I don't know. So I usually read cozier mysteries. But if
Yes.
I can always, if we're adding a list, I can always see if he's recommending that and throw that in. But
Yes, absolutely. I'll just go ahead and say if you have a book recommendation that you did not initially write in that first survey, go ahead and email me and Claire, and that way we can add it to the running list. And really, I'm separating it by genre. So, like, the second genre y'all wanted to read was historical fiction. So, historical fiction will be kind of I'll be filtering that, the book list recommendations that you all have sent, and see if there's any historical fiction books in there. I'll put those on the list on the survey that you can vote on, if that makes sense. And I'll probably be throwing in a few of my own recommendations as well, as this is one of my favorite genres to read. So I'm excited. It'll be, yeah, a little less maybe serious than this type of self-help book. So
Linda, I have a question. Do you remember the author of that
Wow.
series your husband is reading?
yes, if 30 seconds and I can get it, maybe 20.
yeah, and then also email me as well, Linda. And that way we can, that way we can research and make sure it's not too dark for everyone. and then we can add it to the list for everyone to vote on, because it's just going to be majority rules for everyone in regards to the book. That's what happened with this book. Everyone voted. This was the book that got the most votes. So that's how we'll do it more moving forward, unless anyone has another suggestion. And we'll wait for Linda to come back, but I'll go ahead and conclude and stop the recording. Thank you so much for joining book club meeting number 1, and looking forward to the next book we read together.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Catherine.